Hey folks, how's it going? My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT, and you're on another live stream. Today we're going to talk about live resampling with the Elektron Octatrack Mark 1 or Mark 2. What I want to talk about is how it functions, why it's fun, how to make it a little bit easier on yourself if you're trying to do this in a live show, where I originally learned about it from. It's actually one of the things that drew me into the Octatrack. And then maybe I'll even talk about how to build it yourself. I have a pre-built Octatrack template that I'm going to share that I just kind of threw together this morning. It's an offshoot of one of my other Octatrack templates, and I think it's going to do a great job of kind of explaining, describing, and being an example of what live remixing can look like for live hardware electronic music. This is something that's not easily done with other pieces of hardware. It's another reason why I continue to use the Octatrack and why this channel continues to have such a hard focus on the Octatrack despite me being interested in several different items. You know, there's a lot of instruments that I get very excited by. The Octatrack continues to be the one for me that I find the most interesting because I'm able to come up with new ways of using it pretty regularly. So this is something I wanted to share with you, and we'll pop over to it. I do want to acknowledge our lovely sponsor. As usual, we have DistroKid sponsoring this live stream. DistroKid is an online music distribution platform. It's my go-to platform. I highly recommend it. There's links in the chat if you want to get it. I get a small percentage of your sign-up fee. It's like 7%, so I think I get a couple cents. That's cool. How was everybody's New Year? I hope everybody had a great time and everybody was safe. I know New Year's is a really crazy time for a lot of folks, and people do a lot of dangerous stuff during parties, and people party really hard on New Year's. So I hope everybody made it home and wasn't. If you had children, I hope you weren't super scared for your kids all night. And yeah, I didn't do much. I watched Mission Impossible with my wife and played some music. I played a lot of music. Playing with the M8 quite a bit, and I'm actually going to share some of the music I made with the M8. I was doing some live streaming on that in my Discord exclusively the other night, and that was kind of cool having folks pop in, pop out while I was doing some music production. But let's get over to the meat and potatoes of the stream today. That is the whole mothership here. Switch it over. Here we are. We're looking at the Elektron mothership. Yes, we have the Elektron Octatrack Mark II. This is the anniversary edition. We have a TB03 in the corner here. It's my little acid box that I love, waiting on an Avalon. I've got a microphone that's hooked up to a VT4 out of the picture. It's my go-to vocoder. Over here, we have the analog heat plus effects, which is at end of chain scenario here. It's doing some bass to mono, which is just taking the bass frequencies of the entire mix and summing it down to mono for just a cleaner mix at a live show. Don't know if I'd actually bring it to a live show. It's just it's a heavy unit. And I think it sounds pretty good just with these boxes alone, but we'll see. Do have a couple of shows coming up. Here we have the Digitact. This is a monophonic sampler. We have the Digatone. This is an 8-voice polysynth with an FM synth engine, but also a subtractive synthesizer. And then we have the Syntact, which is a hybrid digital analog synthesizer for drums and your typical synthesis, monophonic synthesis. This setup's awesome. I love it. And what I like to do with the Octatrack is do some innovative ideas, I think, for a live project. So I like to create new templates and new ideas with the Octatrack. I say the word template a lot on here because what I mean by that is projects. I create projects on the Octatrack that you can use as a template to start new projects with. So instead of loading a new project, you load a template, you save it as new, and then you start making music from that point. And what's in these templates is a bunch of pre-built effects and concepts, a bunch of pre-built concepts. And in this particular one, in only one of the parts currently, because I just did it this morning, and I will have the whole thing ready probably, maybe even by this evening on my Patreon. So if you're interested in getting all my Octatrack stuff, you can either go to patreon.com or get it from coffee.com. But this will only be on Patreon for a while, kind of like the Octacosm that I built. But let me give you a little example of what it can do. Currently, what we have going on here, I'll play some music and give you a quick demonstration, then we'll talk about it. So I have this music playing live. That's live. That's coming in on 2 separate inputs into A and B, C and D, separated by melody and percussion. Typically, in this current template, it does sum all those effects, although we still do have sidechain bumping. You can hear it sidechaining this whole mix. So that's pretty cool. We do have sidechain of the right side, which is the melody input. So it still does work to do percussion melody separation in this Octatrack template. Okay, so what we got going on is some music playing, right? And now I want to live remix the music. Now, one of the techniques you would use is plugging your headphones into the headphone jack here and queuing up these tracks and making sure the tracks are not set to Q mutes track, just set to Q track. And then you would just turn their Q up all the way max so that you could hear them. You'd have a separate pair of headphones for your Q tracks, and then a pair of headphones for your main mix. That's what I would do. I would actually have 2 different headphones in this scenario. But you don't even need the headphones because you can kind of just preset this up. So what I have going on here is 3 different remix tracks. All of them are set to different scenes. We have scene 1, 2, and 3 here, and then a main scene, which is just a recording of everything. But on this scene, what's going to happen is it's going to play half notes of the music, just the same first slice, but we could change that if we wanted. But if I hit play and crossfade over to this scene, we're just going to hear a repeat. See it there? If I go to this scene, it's going to play this buffer. This one, I randomized it. This is a live loop of the entire mix. Pretty cool, right? Very flexible machine, some really cool ideas. Now let me show you how you could use this potentially. So what you would do is you would start playing your music. Let me talk about a couple of the fundamentals. All of these tracks right here are borrowing from this recording buffer. So we're using recording buffer 4, so we're gonna record on track 4. Something to note about the Octatrack is the way the flex tracks work. A flex track's superpower, its special power, is for one, it has more options in the audio editor because it's in the RAM, meaning it's a malleable piece of audio. It's not something it needs to make a copy of. You can decide whether to save it from the RAM. So the audio editor in the flex tracks has more options. It lets you do some you can trim a bunch of stuff out of your samples. You can't do that on a static track. You can just change the start and end points. But the flex tracks can listen to any recording buffer on the Octatrack. We have 8 recording buffers. They're always there. They're always available, and you can always sample on them. So on track 4, what I have it is listening to recording buffer 4 because I'm recording onto track 4. So of course I've assigned recording buffer 4 so I can record and listen to on the same track. On tracks 5, 6, and 7, they are also listening to recording buffer 4. So all I have to do is use one recording command, and then I have 3 different tracks that I can make remixes of that recording with live in a live scenario. It's really cool. And let me give you a little example. I kind of think I'll change some of the sounds out so you can hear it drastically. We can even go to a different song. Some techno going here. Let's live remix this techno. So first I want to record the techno. I'm going to go to track 4 and I'm going to arm a recording. It's going to be an 8-bar quantized loop. So I'm going to hit Rec 3. We got a recording started. I'm going to hit Rec 3 again. That's going to tell the Octatrack to end the recording after the 8 bars. You'll see it happening here. Here we're getting on to the last couple bars and last bar, and the recording is finished. There's our recording. I can crossfade over to a live version of that recording. There it is. We're in a live loop of the Octatrack. But even better, I can go over here and go. We can switch over to this scene here, which needs to have a... We need to put down triggers. I forgot. I hadn't put triggers down on this track yet because this template isn't finished. I had only done it on this one. So let's put down some triggers. We'll just do half notes and copy this page. And here we go. So now we're getting a live remix of that track. Here's the live music. Let's give it some slices. Function AED. Let's just give it 8 slices. And then let's lock them randomly to this track here. So it's playing random slices from this. The pattern's very repetitive, so it sounds kind of the same. You could go here and do something a little bit more constructive or wild. Just throw some random triggers down. Just in some random spots. This is gonna sound really jank, but on purpose. All right. Let's give this one, I don't know, 16 slices. And then linearly lock them, or randomly lock them. Every once in a while, okay, so every once in a while we still get a little click in our transient, and that's because the Octatrack's transient detection detects by default the left channel, from what I understand. So you actually would need to manually adjust the transients in the stereo view. You can go to the stereo view here, and you can see that we don't have 0 crossings on every single slice. They're only on the left channel. This is one of the Octatrack's problems, is that it does that. One way you can mitigate this is just by giving it a little bit of attack on the envelope for the slicing machines specifically. There we go. Now we don't have any of those transients because we just removed a tiny bit of the intro audio. This is completely remixed, so now we could even play with this and like repitch it, or could take this down an octave, bring this one up an octave. That's kind of cool. That's actually pretty rad. And then back to the live music. So you can do this in a live scenario, like we just did. Music never stopped. You just do the slicing and the mangling, the randomizing of the samples while the music is playing live and you're on the left side of the crossfader. We can go here and do it again. Let's just fill the whole grid here. We'll make this a really glitchy track. And then we'll go function, get 64 slices. Align to 0 crossings, as you can see, it did not align to 0 crossings that are not on the left channel. So it only does 0 crossing alignment for monophonic signals. Good to know, right? Also, totally sucks to find that out, but good to know. And then we can go randomize, locks, and go to this last scene. Give it a little bit of attack, again, to get rid of that transient. So live remixing techno, maybe not the most ideal thing to live remix because mostly it's just going to sound the same because techno is very repetitive, long form phrases. So live remixing something like Some drum and bass would be really good. I don't have any of that prepared. I kind of did this on the fly this morning, so unfortunately I don't have just like the perfect music to show it to you. I do think the other pattern I was playing with probably describes it better. Let's see. Let's throw some triggers down again. We got to do a new recording of this. Select track 4, hit rec 3. Wait for the recording or the pattern to cycle through. All right, we got a recording started. Hit rec 3 again to tell it to stop that recording after 8 bars. You can see the 64 slices there. This scene ignores the slices. This one does not. Scene 15, so let's go to 7. We already got it sliced up. Let's randomize it. We got the attack already done. This would be a really cool break at a live show. You could glitch it like this. Oh, that's sick. Oh yeah, we can grab some new slices, or just randomize it again. Yeah, we can make a new scene. Copy this. Let's make a crazier version of this on 12. That uses retrigs. Let's get another, let's remix again. Let's remix again. What? All right, now we do it Dataline style. Let's get the pitch change out of there. Which one is that on? 7. Pretty cool, right? It's a lot of fun. There's a lot more to it. So I was thinking this idea is not fully fleshed out yet. Because I think that I do want to have, I may augment a different template to work on this because, and I don't need to augment a template. Do I need to augment a template? I'm trying to figure out. So kind of what I want to do is have the drums keep playing, but only remix the melody. So I want to just remix these. I want to have the option to not completely glitch out the entire mix and leave like this part's playing the drums primarily. So 90% of the percussion sounds are coming from here. So if I could have this playing live and then just kind of chop up the bass line and the chord progression and the lead melody that's playing on top of it while the drums just keeps doing its thing, that'd be really cool. The only thing is that the vocals are always on the dig attack because that's just where they come from. But I think that would be pretty cool. This is when the audience shouts, "We want more, we want more, we want more." Thank you. Let me say what's up to the chat. Chat looks totally whack. Is there some way I can fix that? It's completely muted. Cool. Looks really cool with the invisible words. What did I do? What did I do to this? Can I go filters? I don't have a filter on it. I'm still working on this whole, like, get the chat thing looking perfect on the YouTube stream. Anyway, let's get back to this. So, what do you guys think? What do y'all think? Do we want to have the ability to live remix the melody on top of the drums so that we can just slice up the drums? I mean, technically, we can already do that in the current template. Instead of pressing, I could have one of these tracks, like we could have track 5. We could try with track 5. Let's just do it. Let's have track 5 use its own recording buffer. No, I don't want it to use its own recording buffer. What do I want it to do? Because this will get really complicated at this point. The other, one of my other templates, the Ultimate Effects template, it has full-on melody and percussion separation for both the 4-bar loop recordings, but this records in 8 bars. That's why this is more difficult, is because recording in 8 bars in the Octatrack requires you to kind of like mess with it a little bit. So maybe we don't get to have the drum separation, which isn't the end of the world. It's still really cool, right? It's just cool to even have that as a breakdown. And go into something else. Like, we could use that. We could just use, like, we'll just use this. Just as a means to transition from one part of a song to another, have that just crazy, kind of random glitchy slice thing. We could, like, let's see what it sounds like to get out of it. Oh, here we go. There we go. Woo! That was getting pretty cool. It's definitely something to master. Like, this is gonna take a lot of practice to like have something that works every time. I do think that this one scene really does work. This just 64 steps. Actually, I used to use it quite a bit when I'd play. Octatrack would be my performance mixer with my modular setup, and I'd use the nerd sequencer to control just a whole bunch of basically synthesizer modules, as opposed to like oscillator, amplifier, filter, envelope generator, LFO. I would just buy, I just have like Platts, Anise iteratus, Bacillus iteratus, some sort of acid source, and stuff like that. And I'd use the nerd sequencer just to trigger them, like similarly to how like an Elektron box would trigger stuff. And then I would just do this live resample remix. There's a video of it on my YouTube channel. It's a live performance with Colorado Modular Synth Society. Anyway, it's called like 24 Patterns of Nostalgic Bliss or something. I don't know what it's called. I forget. Anyway, it's the same idea. So this is something I've done before, but it wasn't in the like Octatrack projects that I've shared with folks. But I am going to share this project with everybody on my Patreon. So look forward to that. But there's a bunch more for me to do. What I want to do is have like a bunch of scenes, like have like 11 through 16 all be different weird slice variations, like have like the slices be like highly distorted, so when you crossfade over it's like just like clunky crunches, and maybe super wide from the spatializer, or just like filled with chorus. Like we can start doing that stuff right now even. I think it works really well for transitioning from part to part. Once again, the live remixing aspect of it can be pretty tough. I can also tell you how this works. So if you're interested, we could dive into the process of actually building this in the Octatrack so that you can understand the fundamentals, or how I like to set this up. So if everybody tells me that that's what you want to do, then that's what we'll do during this stream. But while we're chilling, how far into this? We're 32 minutes in. Let me get my lovely sponsorship over with really quick, and then we'll jump back into it and we'll build it. So let me switch over to that really quick. Bonk, here we are, DistroKid. We love DistroKid. Let's do our DistroKid sponsorship. This is called the Wheel of Playlist. So here I can spin the wheel to get on their new Spotify playlist. I think no matter what you get on the list, the wheel tells you where in the list you're going to be. So I have this track that I made with the Model Cycles and Orca. I live coded the Model Cycles called Something Beautiful. And now I'm already connected with Spotify. I guess we'll do it again. Ta-da. All right, here we go. Spin the wheel. Where am I going to be? Oh, spin again. That sucks. How many? I get 3 spins. 2,400. 1,700. Which one did I get? 1,700 was my best one. All right. Now I'm on the Spotify playlist. So one of my songs is going to be on a playlist for Spotify. I hope that it gets me some followers on my Spotify channel for EZBOT, or Spotify artist page. All right, the other thing I wanted to show, I just wanted to show off some of the cool, fun stuff that DistroKid has to try and help you get your music out there. This is the kind of stuff that I think is pretty cool. I like to get my music on a playlist so that people listen to it. Here's the other one, is the DistroKid playlist spotlight. And here we can vote on other people's music. Like, I think this is kind of hilarious. So like, oh my God, okay. This, you couldn't hear this, but it was pretty rough sounding. Sorry, Santosh Chris. Internet fame, awesome. I think I'm gonna vote for this one because I had some nice drum breaks in the beginning. Oh, and I can DM the artist, so we can just go through this playlist spotlight, sorry, and listen to people's music and vote on it. I think that's pretty sick. That's gonna be it for the sponsorship. Thank you, DistroKid, for sponsoring this lovely channel. I know that we have a couple people tuned out. They're like, I'm not sitting through this and listening to this sponsorship ad. That's too bad for you. You missed out on something really cool that DistroKid offered you and me. You have no soul. Come on back. Come back to the mothership. All right. Oh, I did want to show something. So I was writing a bunch of music. Did y'all know that this is the best sparkling water you can get? This is the coconut LaCroix. It's amazing. It's definitely my favorite. I love its flavor. It almost tastes like there's sugar in it, but it's supposed to be sugar-free. It's pretty sweet. If you'd like to sponsor me, LaCroix, I'd be forever grateful to you. I have 2 more sponsorship slots open. You're dead to me, LaCroix. Absolutely dead to me. Pure. I love Pure. You don't get to keep your soul, Michael. Let's get it cracking. The Seattle Kraken. Yes, coconut is the best. We can all agree that coconut LaCroix is best LaCroix. And then it goes Pure. Okay, Pure and coconut LaCroix are like really close to each other. It goes coconut or Pure. Depends on how you're feeling that day. And then it goes limoncello. And then everything below that doesn't matter. Because those ones are so far ahead of everybody else that it just doesn't matter. The North Carolina Kraken. Krizzlements, that's right. It's Le Krizzlements. Le Krizzlements. All right, let me show you. I want to show you the M8 track that I'm working on. I haven't added the vocals to it. I was writing lyrics to it. So I was thinking this is going to be a track that I'm just going to record a stereo output, or I could record the stems from the M8, put in my computer, mix and master on my computer, and add some vocal elements, because I've been dying to like release music with me singing on it again. Singing has like always been my favorite thing. I studied singing. I sang in bands. That was something that I loved, was doing singer-songwriter stuff. And I know that I do like some fun vocoder stuff on stream with my vocals, but I really do like to sing a lot. And I think people's ears, like, we just gravitate towards lyrics, and I love poetry and writing lyrics, so I really want to get back to that. But this is like a funk track, dubby funk track that I'm writing, and I want to show it to you real quick. So here we are, we're looking at the lovely M8. Hopefully you can hear it. I'm just going to start at the beginning here and let this play through. It's pretty short. It's also just the beginning of the track that I'm working on. Like, this is going to take, I'll probably be working on this for a week or two before it's really finished, because I really want it to be very nice. But I have like a lot of some of the sound design is finished. I might change out the chords. The bass line is, I've mentioned this before, I love writing bass lines, and the bass line is very funky. If you were to play, this is something you would really have a good time playing a bass guitar, as opposed to a synthesizer. Oh, it's so quiet. Can't you just hear like some vocals over this? It's very dancey. But I love that bass line. I was writing some dub techno, and then a female voice that says coconut sparkling water. That would be really playing to the crowd, for sure. But I was writing some dub techno, and that's where this original part came from. Right? It's like the beginning of these like dubby chords. And this bass line was a lot more muted at the time. But then once I got over here, I was like, this is not dub techno at all anymore. But I did just that bass line. Makes my dog want to dance. This is the M8. That's the M8, mate. M8 for life. I actually want to play with the Polyend Tracker Mini more, because it has some more features that the M8 doesn't have, and I'm just curious if I've spent more time with it, I think that I would enjoy using it more. It's hard because they're two devices that do the same stuff, right? They both do tracker stuff, and I'm just more familiar with the M8, so it's hard for me to make the switch over to something I'm less familiar with when what I want to do is make music. So if I was starting out from scratch, I don't know which one I would end up using more. I don't know. They're both really cool. I know that there's some really, really dope stuff coming in the M8 world right now because, you know, they're going to be coming out with the Mark II model eventually here. I think bigger screen and more battery life or something. So cool stuff is coming on the M8 front. But on the Polyend Tracker Mini front, cool stuff is coming too, from what I understand. So I don't know when or what. And if I did know, I couldn't say anything. But I do know some cool stuff is coming to the Mini Tracker that's going to make it even more dope. Because they plan to keep working on that, and they have some really great ideas. I'm excited about that. I've actually really been enjoying the Polyend Play, too. I did a stream on that, where I was just like, this is the weirdest groove box. I do still think it's like a very weird groove box, but I think it's a really fun groove box, and I like that it does stuff different than anything else I have in the studio. There's nothing else that generates in hardware, in a hardware format, in stereo, that generates sequences for me just right off like instantaneously, and then I can do weird variations of that on a grid base by highlighting segments of the grid. There's some really just unique stuff that nothing else does. So it's kind of become, it's a keeper piece of kit for me because there's nothing else like it. I have, you know, a Brittum Analog 4, I got 2 Syntax, Polyend Tracker Mini, and then the Play Plus, and a bunch of modular, Push 3, all this stuff you see here. 2 M8s. I have so many groove boxes, so many different pieces of kit, and I play on these, of course, the most, the M8 and the Polyend Play Plus. Those are the ones that I find myself gravitating towards the most right now. This is me. I'm not telling anybody to go and do what I do. I do my own thing. Like, I don't know. I'm like people, everybody has their own idea of what is the right workflow and stuff. But these are the ones that I'm enjoying the most right now. I have been trying to get back into playing with my modular system. I have another table set up. I wish I had more like cameras and stuff so I could show you more of the studio, because it's actually, I really love my studio space. Like, I think I did a pretty good job. I made stations for stuff. I got, you know, like a Moog station with the Moog and Prophet station with the guitar that's over on there, and a Nord-Drum 3P for me to just like sit there and play these instruments. They're all, you know, keyboards, guitar, drums. It's all hands-on stuff. Over here, we're in the sequencer territory, like techno, drum and bass, electro. That all happens over here. And then on the table is like experimental, push 3, modular stuff. I know this is all like nobody really cares what I'm talking about right now. I'm just chatting with you guys because there's no one else to talk to about it. But it's exciting. Like, I like it. We all like building our studio, and I think that's a big part of getting into like hardware music, or even playing, you know, guitar players. All of us, we just like building these home studios and sharing what their layout looks like and making it this fun room. I was watching a YouTube channel yesterday, and I've been coming across a lot more guitar YouTube because I've got a Boss IR2. If you're not familiar with the Boss IR2, this thing is amazing. I wish I could pull it off my guitar pedal board and show it to you. I only have a couple pieces on the pedal board right now, but it's one of them. So the Boss IR2 is a guitar amp and cab simulation made by Boss. It's an audio interface too. It has effects and also a bunch of cab and amp simulators. And it's very, very affordable. It's kind of taking the internet by storm. I pre-ordered one a while back and I got it pretty early, and I've had it. And you can do a send return with it. So I have the send going out into my pedal board and the return through the Boss IR2, and then the output of the Boss IR2 going right into my mixer. So I can literally pick up my guitar and just play through this Boss IR2 and my pedal board without using my Princeton reverb, which is a incredibly expensive, heavy, and very, very loud amplifier. So I can never use it. I live in a albeit I like my home, my apartment that I live in, but it's too loud. You can't play that in an apartment. I don't own a house. It's basically impossible to own houses in Seattle, especially people who make money doing music. Like, none of us are able to buy houses unless we're Pearl Jam or something over here. Maybe some folks do, but People who are literally just doing this, it's a hard time to buy a house over here. It's very expensive in Seattle. So I can't own a house at the moment, so I can't use this amplifier pretty much ever. Boss IR2 solves that for me, and I can listen through my nice mixer and speakers that I got. This is a little offshoot tangent about playing guitar. I do love to play guitar, so I've been enjoying playing the guitar again and trying to get it set up so that it runs into my system. I was like, I should be sampling my guitar, especially like the M8. I was like, I should sample my guitar into the M8, get some funk chords going with that do bass line. You just like get some upstrokes. I think that would be a lot of fun. Move to Tacoma. I'm not moving to Tacoma, homie. I do go to Tacoma sometimes. I do like going over to Tacoma because there's the comedy clubs up there. I was gonna see Tim Meadows. You remember, you know Tim Meadows, the ladies man. He was doing a live show up there. I've actually seen him once before. I like to go to comedy shows a lot, so me and my wife, partner, whatever you want to call, we go to comedy shows. That's kind of our thing. So we go to Tacoma to go to the comedy show because they always have great comedians coming in. The Tacoma aroma is the real deal, man. The Tacoma aroma sucks. It stinks. There's a paper factory. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, Seattle, there's a town called Tacoma, not too far from Seattle. And there's a paper factory, a paper mill on the side, pretty close to the freeway on your way to Tacoma, and it creates this awful smell, and you can smell it for a couple of miles, and it's just like, it smells like gas, like human gas, not the you're gonna burn your house down kind of gas. It just smells bad, and it smells like that for a couple miles. So everybody driving through it every single day is reminded of this awful aroma. It's pretty goofy. All right, we've done our sponsorship. I've showed you this concept for the remixer template, which I will have available. I'm still working out what I want to do. Maybe it won't be available tonight on the Patreon after all. I'm not sure, because I do want it to be something that's a little bit more usable. But I'm thinking that maybe I should show you a little bit of how it works. Or let's talk about it, and if somebody has some questions, I don't know, at me in the chat, and maybe I'll see it. But let's talk about what's happening. So I did mention that track 4 is recording an 8-bar loop on recording buffer 4, and that these are listening to that recording buffer. The way that this works when I crossfade over to a scene is that I have all of these tracks amplifier settings down at 0, negative 64. And what these scenes do is when I switch to these scenes, it's bringing the amp volume, like for instance on track 7, this glitchy one, it's bringing the volume back up to 0 and locking it at 0. Because we're not going to be messing with the volumes on the, you could on the sequencer if you wanted, but we're not going to be messing with the volumes. The idea is to have it be at unity all the time. So it brings the volume up to 0. Instead, I don't use the track level. I know you can just turn this and put the track level up. I don't like doing that because that adjustment is based off the volume knob. So if you bump this volume knob and you crossfade over, it'll be louder because you bump the volume knob. So the best practice, in my opinion, is to use the volume itself and not the track level. You can use the track level to bring volumes down. That's not a big deal because the bottom of the volume is inaudible, but the top of the volume is very loud. It's a completely different concept entirely. So I don't think it's a good idea for us to bring the volume union with each other. They are at unity, so they are indiscernible from each other. And that's what I want. I don't want anyone to be like, oh, when he crossfaded over, it's much louder. Patriarchy, thanks again for the cheers. I appreciate you. Yeah, so think about that. Keep that in mind. We want unity for these remix scenes, for these live resampling scenes, so that they're not quiet or too loud. We want them to be just right, just what everybody would expect. And that's why I do it that way. So what I'll do is then I'll go to these scenes and I'll bring anything. I'm bringing down this neighbor track. The audio is coming in through a through track. Through tracks allow audio to get passed through in the Octatrack and allow you to choose from mono, dual mono to stereo and 2 different sources and the volume of that audio coming in. So I have a through track that's bringing the audio into my Octatrack as opposed to using the mixer, which is something you could do. But if I use the mixer, the audio through the mixer will skip over my through tracks and go straight into this master track that I have, and I'll only be able to do effects on a master track. So that's why I use the through track instead of the mixer. For the Octacosm template that I made, I know this might get a little confusing, I am using the mixer because I want the through tracks to always be running. Anyway, there's a bunch of other ideas around the Octacosm. That's far from being finished. It's something that'll come out probably finished around like mid-end of this month. Because it's going to take a while for me to like really flesh out the design. It sounds pretty cool as it is, but I've already rethought a bunch of stuff in it. So all I have to do at this point, we got the through track running into a neighbor track, running into a neighbor track. This is so that I can get 6 serial effects blocks in a row, or 6 serial effects in a row. And the very last effect is a reverb. And then it goes and I'm able to resample it live here on track 4. This is how it works on a bunch of these template projects that I make on the Octatrack. This is just a personal workflow that I like to do. Where was I? Okay, so when I mute things, all I have to do is mute the X level, the volume level here on this track down to the minimum by turning this knob on the last neighbor track, because all the audio is running through these tracks and it comes out on track 3 because that's the last neighbor track. So it goes through neighbor, neighbor, after 6 stereo effects, and then it runs into this master track over here, and that's when we hear it. So everything gets summed down to this master track, and maybe my track is a little too bassy, but I like the sound design and I can't really do much about it because these don't have a bunch of filters on it. I can take some of the low out here and have this memorized into just a single pattern. So that's why I do this. We don't need to do it because I think it sounds fine the way it is. So I have a track and a scene, and the track, essentially, let's boil this down. I know this is getting a little all over the place. If you guys are having trouble following me, it's because I'm talking about so many different concepts at the same time to make this function. But we have a track that records some audio. This one listens to the recording buffer, it slices it up, and its volume is at 0 until I crossfade over. And when this crossfades over, it brings its volume up to an audible unity value and every other track down to silence. And that's what's happening. Live audio, recorded audio. Live audio, recorded audio. In between, half of both. We don't like that. Alchemy. What's up, Alchemy? Was wondering if you had any solutions for your Octatrack DAW integration apart from plugging the Octa into another Elektron box and running Overbridge, if that's not too much to explain. A solution for it? There's the solution to me is that you could use potentially, there's a few solutions. One, you could plug it into your into another box and then run that into Overbridge. I think that's honestly a really great solution. So I'm not going to tell you that there's a better one than that because I think that one works. Everything coming out of the Octatrack, we can't multi-track. You technically can multi-track in your Octatrack and then take the stems out from your compact flash card and bring it into your computer. But I think it's probably works better just to comp the tracks into your Octatrack, just mute on a per track basis and record those tracks muted, or record the tracks muting one by one into your DAW. It takes a couple minutes, or a minute maybe, to get a 4 or 8 bar pattern, but I don't think that's a big deal. You know, I don't think it's a big deal. If it's like a song that you love and you're excited to put it out, I think that's not gonna be an issue. But there isn't really a good solution, to be honest, Alchemy. I'm afraid. Yeah, you could just stem it out. It's just, that's really the only thing you can do, which is kind of a bummer. What's up, Toby? Good to see you, dude. Harry, what's up, Harry? Blake, like a knife. How are you guys? Let's check on this chat here. How do you even afford a dog in Seattle? That's what I'm talking about. The R2 seems way better than it should be. That's what, for real, the IR2 sounds so I have the, just quickly, let's talk about this again for 1 second. I have the Boss IR2. Like is that my mustache or is there something on my face? It's my mustache. That's what's on my face. I have the Boss IR2 and I have a Boss Katana Air. The Boss Katana Air lets you play your guitar wirelessly. It's actually pretty flawless. It's pretty phenomenal. but it does some like ground, or it does some noise canceling or noise isolation stuff that you can kind of hear sometimes when you're like playing stuff. I don't know if it has to do with it being the Katana Air version. But anyway, I don't care for the Boss Katana Air like I do the IR2. The IR2 seems, it's absolutely perfect, and it just runs right into my my mixer. So Boss Katana with the record line out versus IR2, I'm gonna pick the IR2 over Boss Katana with the record line out. Just my opinion. I know a lot of people are interested in this stuff that play guitar and want to add it to their music. I do recommend, it's so affordable. Just snag yourself a Boss Katana, use the send and return with your pedal board, and then run those outputs into a stereo input on your mixer or interface into your computer and start laying down tracks because it's going to sound awesome. And you can get something like Guitar Rig and go ham. I'll be pinging you a lot of questions as I have them come. Oh, you have one? Oh, you got the Octatrack, Alchemy. That's great. Now we're going to see the Octatrack on Alchemy Neuro's channel. That's awesome. You stream all the time. You put me to shame with how much you stream. Your first time seeing EZBOT live, is there a way to continuously record from a source track even when its crossfade level is down via a fader scene? Yes. The recording buffers, they're going to record the incoming audio. If it's a resample and the audio is muted on that track, it's not going to hear it. So no, if that's the case. If it's a resampling some audio tracks on the Octatrack, it needs to be able to hear the audio. Otherwise, it's got nothing to record. But if it's an incoming audio source, that's separate from what we hear. Incoming audio is happening here, so it can record these tracks no problem. So the answer is yes and no. This stream is keeping me from January Day 2 jam. Oh yeah, January. Go do January. I never do January. I just do it every day, I guess. I don't really know. What's up, Tough Chunks? Making some good music, man. If anyone knows music production, I need an editor. Yeah, I had an editor, and then now they're focused on their own things, which is why I don't make as many videos, because they take so long to edit. Get back to your January. All right, let's get back over here. Oh, sorry, I'm just reading this chat over. All right, let me tell you how. Let's go to a new project really quick. Let's save this one because I like it. Because I'm going to return to this and tweak it a bit. Oops, I meant to save the parts first. Let's go to a new project and let me make let's make a resample track so that everybody understands how this works. Okay? Tutorial time. Everybody go get your cup of coffee, get your espressos, grab your LaCroix, because let's break some minds. Let's break some brains. Oh, thank you, Harry. Harry hooking up the tips. That's my dude. Dallas House Music, what's up? Y'all ready to learn today? Y'all ready to learn today? Well, hopefully you can see the screen okay, because you are going to need to see this. I could zoom in a little further. We don't need to see the back of the machine. That's not important. All right. All right, guys, here we go. If you ever want to learn any of this stuff, any of these machines, including the M8, modular, polyend stuff, I do private lessons, and there's some people in the chat that have done them, and they can attest to it being a fun, good time. So if you're interested in getting private lessons, you can visit EZBOT.live. Alternatively, you can join the Patreon under the lessons tier, and then we'll do a monthly lesson. But if you want to learn these things deeply, I will meet up with you, and it'll be just like this, but with us. So, but let's do a lesson for free today without it being a private lesson. Let's just do a group lesson. So we're going to make a resample track project. So what I want to do is first create a through track. So I'm going to select track 1, double press the source here, and we're going to select a through track. So through tracks allow incoming audio into your Octatrack for processing through chains of audio. I'm able to use neighbor tracks after through tracks so that I can process the audio further and further and further. This is really cool about through tracks, but it also lets you bring audio in mono or stereo or dual mono. And that's notable because in your mixer, you cannot choose between a mono signal. So when I plug something in just to the left input, the Octatrack doesn't go, oh, I only hear left input, let's sum that to mono. It doesn't do that. It just gives you the left channel. So you have to use stereo inputs with the mixer. That I don't like, all right? That doesn't work so well for monophonic instruments. So a through track's pretty powerful in that regard. So what we want to do on this through track, and just for this tutorial, we are going to record all the audio coming in on one through track. I'm going to bring the track level up to 127. This is going to stop it from attenuating any volumes. By default, the Octatrack gives you this track level of 108, I believe. And 108 is, I don't know what the dB value is, but it's not at unity. Unity, think of, this is my analogy for how track levels work and how to get your, well, just check this out. Think of a water faucet. This is the one I keep using. The water is your audio, and when the faucet is not open all the way, you're not getting all of the water pressure. The water is coming out just a little bit slower than it normally would, and think of the speed of the water as the volume, right? When we bring the level up all the way, we're just getting the entire mix. So this is kind of like a dry wet mix is another analogy for what's happening here. Your track level is a dry wet mix of the audio on that level. At 127, it's at its true value. It's at full mix. So I want my track level to be at 127. Then I'm going to select inputs A and B and inputs C and D. This is now going to let me listen to these instruments as soon as I either hold this track and hit play, which made a play trigger happen on the through track, which means that this audio, which is quite quiet, is now coming through into my Octatrack. Alternatively, what you do is you put down a playback trig on step 1 on your through tracks. This is something that you should just do. Doing what I did, holding track and hitting play, is just an alternative method, but it's not the right method. In fact, don't do it. I'm just showing you that you can. Put a playback trig in your step sequencer so that every time the pattern starts, that through machine gets told that it can function again. Why this is important is that if I hit play and then I double press stop, it'll stop the audio entirely. A double press of stop cuts off your delays and reverbs, all of the tails that you have in your Octatrack, all that stuff, the audio just dies. It's not like on the Digitact and Digatone where you hit stop and, well, you double press stop on there and it also kills all the audio. But the Octatrack's mutes, the way they work is that it mutes the audio. It doesn't mute the triggers. So when I'm not going to go into that. I don't know why I'm talking about that. These things, they mute the triggers on the sequencer. This doesn't do it that way. That's kind of where I was going with that. Anyhow, what we want to do now is bring this through machine up to plus 63 and plus 63. What this does is brings back the gain that the Octatrack had taken away from the incoming audio. What the Octatrack does, and this is in the manual, so you can read it and learn about this yourself. What the Octatrack does is when audio comes into the Octatrack through a through machine, just into the Octatrack in general, but through the through machine, it brings the volume down 12 dB. And the 12 dB is equivalent to plus 63. And that 12 dB is so that it can be processed through the effects tracks, so it gives it some headroom. It's still going to get processed. It's just fine for us to bring it back up. The reason I bring it back up to plus 63 is so that I'm back at the volume that I would expect. If I was to plug my headphones into my Digitact and listen, and then plug the headphones into the Octatrack at plus 63, they would sound the same. That's the important part here. I'm just checking on the chat. Learn me. Okay, so that's important to know, right? We want to have the volumes match. You don't want to be like, oh, when I plug it in my Octatrack, it's all quiet. This is why it's quiet. It's because the Octatrack tells you, or the manual says, it brings the volume down 12 dB. When we bring this up, we're back where we started. The volume that we know and love from our external machines. So now we have the plus 63, the track level at 127. We need to tell these machines to play when I hit play on the Octatrack. Function, MIDI, send transport, send clock. If we also want the Octatrack to tell these machines to move through their patterns as well, we could tell it to send program change and set the program change number to the program change receive number that we have on these boxes. I know on mine, it's channel 10. So I'm going to set this to channel 10. Hit yes. You don't have to hit yes, you just leave it. And now the Octatrack is going to be able to tell these machines to move to different patterns and also start their projects up. There we go, right? We got our audio back into the Octatrack. So now we are ready to start building a template or a resample track or just get a project started on the Octatrack. All we've done so far is played with a single through track, but we have two different effects that we could use. Potentially, we could create a high pass, low pass filter on the input, or we could put a compressor in at the input. If you are going to put a compressor into your Octatrack, I do recommend that you put it in at the input, because if you want to do some resampling of the audio, you want to resample the end of your chain and not the compressor. Like, we want the compressor to hit the audio and then resample the audio at the end of the chain so that we're not doubling the compression, basically. You don't want to put the compressor on the master track is what I'm getting at. If you put on the master, you're going to compress your master track, and then when it does a resample, it's going to compress that track again because it's going through a master track. This is why we put compressors on the through track at the input. So potentially we could put a compressor in because they sound nice. RMS is I forget what it stands for. Has to do with the ratio, but the point of RMS, I can tell you what it is without remembering what the acronym stands for, is to have more of a bus compression as opposed to something that isolates transients more defined. So the bus compressor is a wider, smoother compression, I think. And what we could do is give it a little bit of gain, say about 6 is good. Max threshold, I think, is like 60. We just kind of leave these, was it 54, 60? Can't really remember what my compressor settings are that I like to use, but I think this should be okay. Sounds good. Okay, so now we have a compressor on our input. Over here, we could turn this into a freeze delay if we want. So let's go ahead and turn it into a freeze delay. Turn off tape, turn lock on. I'm gonna bring the send up to 127. And the reason I bring it up to 127 is because I think of the crossfader as 0 and this is 127. So if I move this crossfader over and I want this to go the inverted action, bring the send to 0. When send hits 0, it freezes. If I bring this feedback up all the way, it'll freeze indefinitely. So if I hold this down, let's just mute this scene. I like working in dry wet for most things. If I hold this down and set this at 0 for the scene, the crossfader hitting the very end here is going to initiate this freezing. We could give it a different time. We already have some cool effects. Right? And it's nice and compressed. It sounds good. The compression actually sounds better, I think. I know it is a little bit louder, and we haven't been able to go back and forth and match it. We need a meter to actually do compression, like true compression. We need to be able to meter it and see if we're full mix is the same volume as the no mix. Otherwise, you're not really doing anything. You're just kind of cranking the volume. So now we have this scene here. We could filter it. We're going to get to the resample track, but we want to have some cool effects here. Let's go ahead and bring a neighbor track in. And now the audio is running from here into the neighbor track. We'll turn that level up. And here we could just leave the filter on. Now we have this effect. Which is cool on our live audio. Could bring these elements back in, actually. Get this whole mix going. Root means square. Thank you. It means RMS means root means square. Where is that enormous reverb coming from? Oh my God. There we go. Cool, so now we have a couple effects. We have the Daft Punk effect, which is the effect, I just call it the Daft Punk effect, so it reminded me of Daft Punk, but it's a half note looper with kind of a smile pass filter on it. And we have a compressor, and we can now build out a simple, let's put this scene here, delete this one, and now we can turn this into a high pass. A nice acidy high pass filter. Make this a low pass. Not too much resonant on the low pass. So we got some cool effects. Now, let's make a resample track. So I like to make chains. So I'll start here, neighbor track, and the last one I will have be a resample track of the chain of audio. Okay, so let's turn this into a flex track. We can leave all these values here. They don't matter right now. Bring the volume up to 127. This is important. We want that on our neighbor tracks too. Okay, and now we want to assign the recording buffer 4. So again, I'm going to mention this one more time to really concrete this into your brains. I could put a flex track over here and have this flex track listen to recording buffer 4. Okay? I'm on 5, but I can listen to recording buffer 4. I cannot record on track 5 into recording buffer 4. That is not how it will work. If I record over here, just because recording buffer 4 is selected, it doesn't mean the recording goes into recording buffer 4. That recording will go into recording buffer 5 because that is where this track lives. If I'm highlighted on 5 and I record, I will record into that recording buffer. This is important to remember this. But it's also important to remember the distinction that I can't record into the recording buffers, but I can listen to other recording buffers. So again, that's the superpower of the flex track. It can listen to other recording buffers. It cannot record into recording buffers. This is not what it does. The recording buffers are always there. You can always record into them. In fact, I can record into track 6 just by hitting the button. Look, the plus symbol's running. There's audio in there. Or I could go let's do it again. We got some sounds. If I go function rec 3, edit this recording, there it is. Let's write it on a static track. It doesn't matter. You can always record. You can always listen to your recordings. Okay, let's get back over here. So what I want, we're just going to do a 4-bar looper. Okay, so the 4-bar live resample looper that we're going to create is going to have a playback trig. First, let's change our pattern settings. It's something I should have done at the very beginning. Function pattern. Let's go to per track scaling. And then let's scale this out to 64. Even though I usually write in 8 bars, we're just going to do 64 steps to keep things easy for me. The through track doesn't really need to be changed. Neither does the neighbor track. And then this static track doesn't matter. We can actually turn that into another neighbor track. And just let the audio go. So now we're going to have track 4 record the audio from track 3 because we created a chain, a through, a neighbor, a neighbor. So it's like a guitar pedal board. Here's the input of the pedal board. Here's the output of the pedal board. Everything in between is going through these 2 effects tracks, which I can change, right? Too many effects will cause the Octatrack to crap its pants. I know this because I do it all the time. I crash my Octatrack because I do stuff like this, but it can handle some pretty good stuff. So I want track 4 to listen to this neighbor track. So I'm going to tell this recorder to do that. So I'm going to leave it on trig 1, 2, and I'm just going to mute these incoming audio options here, and we're going to select track 3 as our recording source. So now this recorder is going to record just the internal of track 3, which is all of this right here. I could make a master track over here, which would sum all this audio, including these recordings, and process them through a master track. So that's where the EQ comes in. I can use that EQ. Because my resample is not going to be of the master, the resample is of this chain of audio, and I'm treating it like a master, if that makes sense. So now that I've done that, we have our recording buffer selected. When you're in this mode here, you can place down recorder trigs, which is what I want to do. I want to place down a recorder trig. There's two places that you can place recorder trigs down. Function trig edit. You can go down here and select recording trig. You can put down recorder trigs. You can see them populating here. If I go to another page, it disappears. You can even see the pages of recorder trigs in this editor. You can also just go in here, function rec1, look at your recording setup, and this is also a shortcut to the recorder trigs. So if I place a trig here, this is a recorder trig. If you're ever looking at this and you're in your step editor and all your trigs disappeared, they didn't disappear. You're looking at a different sequencer. You're looking at a recording trig sequencer. Now what I want to do is make this a one-shot. The reason why we want to make this a one-shot is if I leave it like this, it's going to constantly reset itself every time the pattern turns over. Every time it does this 4 bars, it's going to hit this, it's going to start resampling again. I don't want it to start resampling again. I want it to resample one time when I tell it to resample. So I'm going to hold function and select that trigger, and it's going to turn it into a one-shot recorder trig. One-shot recorder trigs are trigs, or just one-shot trigs in general, are trigs that require arming. They function one time and they require arming again. So now I can leave here. We have our one-shot. It's on step 1 of page 1, which is a 4-bar long pattern here. And I can hit yes, and that will arm that recorder. Which is, unfortunately, not recording that one. There we go. You can also hold the trigger down and you can select your inputs right here. You can see it highlights it just like a trig lock. I'm gonna unlock A, B, C, and D and just have it trig lock the internal. Hit yes. There's our audio. The song that I have is an 8-bar song, so this 4-bar loop isn't going to be as useful. Maybe I will show you how to do the 8-bar version after this. It's a little bit more complex, but it won't be over your head if you pay attention. But right now we have this set up. So now we could create a scene that listens to this audio and mutes the external audio, but plays this audio only. Because if I put down a playback trig, we're now going to hear double of our audio, an identical double. It's going to have phasing, it's going to be loud. Doesn't sound good, right? So what we need it to do is only listen to one of these audio segments at a time. So I'm going to create a scene here. I'm going to use scene 16 because this is what I always do for my resample scene. It also says it right here on these awesome performance template stickers that Blake Kaiser designed and I had printed, and you can buy from modbang.com. There's one for the hybrid template, which is what we were working on earlier today, if you want to pick it up, which you can write in your own scenes right here for the 2 that are open. Anyway, enough commercial for that. So I have a master looper here. It says here on my tape, master looper, master looper, master looper, because all 4 parts are master loopers for me. So I'm going to put a master looper here. And what I want to do is have this volume be at 0. I'm going to bring the volume all the way down. And I'm going to have the incoming audio from this neighbor track get set to minimum. So now I can place down a playback trig on track 4, which is already there, and I can crossfade over to the live recording. We did it. We can make a scene that's a reverse scene. Let's copy this. We'll put it over here. Paste it. Reverse the rate. Pretty cool, right? This is how you make a resample scene and how you resample on the Octatrack, essentially. And a 4-bar loop version of it, which I think is the easiest to work with. So now if we wanted to, we could create one of these glitchy resample scenes by making this flex track listen to this recording buffer. So let's double press. We're already on a flex track. Let's double press track 5. We're listening to recording buffer 4. I forgot we already set it up. So it's listening to recording buffer 4. That's what we want. We're going to record here and we're going to mangle here. So we're going to make a scene right here. We'll do scene 12. We'll bring this track level up. Make this volume lock at 0. I'm going to bring the volume down. And now I'm going to lock every other scene I'm going to lock this to 0 and lock this to minimum because I don't want to hear either of those. I just want to hear this track. And we are going to turn slice on, and I'm going to set the slice length to its max value. It doesn't, anything above like 60 or something would be fine. This is going to play like, this is just going to make it so that no matter where I put a trigger, it'll play that slice all the way through. That's the point of it. Instead of it, it'll play it starting at whatever slice point it does, but it will go all the way forever and complete the entire segment. So there's no dips or silences. That's why I bring the start length up. When you're in slice mode and slice is turned on, your length determines how many slices you play, and your start position determines where that slice starts. So once we slice this audio, function slice, let's do 64 slices. Once we slice this audio up, this length is going to say start at slice 12, or start, let's do it, make it simple math. Start at slice 12 and play until slice 8, because I have this length set at 4. So it's going to be a total of 4 slices from that start position. And that's how that works. So I'm going to bring it up all the way and have it set on slice 1 because it doesn't matter. We're going to do random slice selection for our sequencer. So we could just fill this grid again like we did before. We'll make this one 64 steps. And then we're going to make a scene. We're going to use the scene that listens to this and mutes the other audio. Okay. So we've got our crazy slice thing going on, right? So now let's let the music play live. Hit yes. Random locks. Now we're going crazy. Make another one. Bring the rate up. Retrig. MD, has any one of y'all experimented with rhythmic recording tricks? Is there any practical reasons to put the recorder trig elsewhere other than the first step, or do I need a recording track on track 5 there? There is good reasons to put recording trigs on other steps, but you have to design scenes around these ideas. So if you had some audio that was like randomly sampling some stuff, you could have another track play it back in reverse or repitched, and then it will randomly, it'll sample again. It won't randomly sample, but it will sample on a semi-random because you randomly selected a trig or whatever. And it could play back on another part of your sequence. To me, putting the recorder trigs anywhere other than step 1 is usually not very useful. Like there's not that many good reasons to do it. I'm going to be honest. You can get pretty creative on the Octatrack and come up with a reason to do it, but there's not that many good reasons to do it. So step 1 is usually going to be where you put the recorder trig. Playback trigs, putting them all over the place, that's where it makes more sense. Alternatively, though, I will say putting recorder trigs on random or just different places in your step sequencer with one-shot conditions on them so they don't re-trigger again, that's different. That means it's going to capture the audio at a different position in the music and then grab the loop starting from there. Now that's actually really cool, and you can use that all the time. That is way more practical. But because recording triggers by their nature of the recorder trigger is for every time that it gets triggered, every time a red trigger gets triggered, it resets the recorder. It deletes everything. It doesn't overdub. So why would I want to have a recorder trig that just constantly is being reset when the playback is behind it? It doesn't matter. It doesn't work. That's why you need to use the one-shot triggers on recording triggers that are within your sequence. Then you'll actually have some playable material from there. The rhythmic triggers for the slices, yes. Now we could have like an LFO do something here, I suppose. Could make another copy of this one. We could have this one bring the pitch all the way up. Oh, whoops. Here's a cool one. We can randomize it. I know we're having to listen to that song a lot. I'm sorry about that. We could potentially do it again. Like we could create another track that does the same thing. Just copy this. No, do I want to copy the pattern? Probably not. I don't know if I actually want to do it again because I don't think I need to. I think y'all understand it at this point. I hope. But you can keep creating these variations, right? It doesn't have to be so many steps like this. Sure. We'll leave those. Miller says, when using the LFO to randomize the start point over getting the trigs to be randomized, yeah, you could do that. You could actually just have the depth of the LFO come in here. Let's do it. Let's make another scene. Scene 15. And let's go to the LFO on this track and set it to the start position. And we'll just do random trig. Yeah, we'll just do random trig. And now we'll just bring the depth up of that LFO here. That's pretty cool. So it's a loop. So it's a ping pong. Cool. So this is how you do live resampling on the Octatrack, and some potential use cases for it. I do think it would be really cool, and we could go even further, but it would take us a lot longer to get this all sussed out. Would be to make 2 separate buses, one for each audio input, AB input, a CD input, and then we live remix the different elements on top of each other. So we actually have this playing live, and then we can go in, crossfade over to a scene, and then place down like 1/8 notes of a recording of the bass line and the melody on top of a consistent drum beat so that it doesn't sound so glitchy. That way it sounds more like an actual remix. I suppose we could do that actually pretty easily. I could switch this over to a through track. Click back. Make this one not do that. I didn't need to do that, but I just did anyway. 'Cause I'm crazy. We could have this listen to track 6 instead. Or the recorder, I mean. And then we don't mute. Let's delete these scenes. This master scene would listen to them both. No master scene. Goodbye. We'll listen to record C and D, listen to C and D only. Okay, so I go here. Recording is place 5. Or 6. Hold on. Need to wrap my brain around what I'm doing really quick. I am gonna have this flex track playing back a recording of this through machine. Okay, yeah. So let's have it. Just means that you have to do an independent recording, but it's not a big deal with a 4-bar loop, because 4-bar loops you can just use the yes button to trigger one-shot tricks. With a 8-bar looper, you can't do that. So we want to listen to track 6. Chord length 64. Okay. And its recording buffer is set to 5. This is good to go. Okay. Put down a record trigger. Step 1. The 1 shot. Okay, now I can hit yes. Whoa, 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 whoa. How many triggers are there? Just the one. What happened here? Oh, it's the playback triggers. Okay. Now a scene that listens to this track and mutes this. Mutes this. Oh wait, no, it doesn't mute. This. We did it. Putting some random tricks down. Now our drum beat plays freely, and and we can resample over that drum beat. That's so sick. We could always remix it too. Let's go. Get a new recording. Live remixing, live resampling, the way it ought to be. I do think it's much better to actually live remix on top of the drums. I think that's how it should be. I think that is how it should be. That was way cooler than doing the entire mix. Don't you think? I think this is something that I could actually maybe incorporate into the Ultimate Effects template. Maybe. This used to be a part of one of my original performance templates on the Octatrack. Anyhow, I hope you learned a lot. Hope I was able to help somebody wrap their head around the Octatrack a little bit more. That might have been pretty confusing. A lot of moving parts going on there. My name is Matthew, aka EZBOT. This has been an Elektron talk about the Octatrack and doing live resampling, live remixing, both of an entire mix and of a separate mix of just the melody bus on the Octatrack. And hopefully you learned how to do live resampling and to sample on the Octatrack. This is kind of an all-in-one type tutorial. If you'd like to support this channel, it would mean the world to me, because this is, well, it would mean the world to me. If you'd like to support this channel, just go ahead and put a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, or leave a nice comment. That'd be great. If you want to go a little bit further, I do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/EZBOT. You can sign up there, kick a couple bucks my way, and I can keep making content, teaching folks how to use live hardware on this channel. And if you want to get the templates, you can also get them from patreon.com/EZBOT, or you can go to ezbot.live and pick them up. Alternatively, you can buy them from my YouTube channel. On some of the videos, it'll drop down. You can pick them up if you want. I also sell these cool stands that you'll see that makes it so the Octatrack is so close to these machines, the analog heat. They're sitting on top of these risers that were designed by Jordo, who's in the chat. Femto is his name in the chat. He designed these, and we sell them at modbank.com. You can put them on your Octatrack on them. We also have a whole bunch of versions. It's on modbank.com if you want to check that out. Otherwise, just coming and hanging out in the Discord. There'll be a link to that in the chat on the channel. Once I'm done with this stream, I'll put it there. Link over a invite to the Discord. You're welcome to come in. It's completely free. There's a lot of people in there that know a ton about Elektron stuff. Great place to talk and hang out. We're currently doing a drum and bass compilation together, which we will release together. And the sign up is still going on, so you're welcome to sign up for that if you want to get involved. And the deadline for tracks is now March 1st. So for those of you who thought the deadline was February 1st, it's now been moved to March 1st to give people more time to work on the tracks. That's going to be it for me. Hope you enjoyed today's live stream. I look forward to seeing you in the Discord and hopefully on the Patreon as well. Have a good one. Bye.